Well, my name is Odessa Piper, and I want to welcome you to my kitchen where I am taking on making a replica, or as close as possible, to Frank Lloyd Wright's birthday cake. And uh, I am the chef of the Food Artisan Immersion Program at Taliesin, and it is my great pleasure to show you some techniques that I've discovered in my years. I formerly ran Le 12 restaurant, and in my years as a chef, to understand some hacks on how to make this our cake. So I am going to start right in. I made the cake ahead, and I'm going to get you the recipe with some tips. Just one method that I discovered that's very important. And the method is the choice of sugar that you use to make this cake. And what I have here is 3 different sugars. One is a typical commercial sugar. Another one is beautiful organic cane sugar. And another one is a a sugar called castor sugar, which you see a lot in Britain, and you do see it in specialty stores here. Here is the most important tip about this cake, because it has come out very, very heavy many years at Taliesin, and I don't know if anyone investigated why. If you use a heavy sugar, the cake is made by meringuing the warm eggs separated with sugar. If you use a heavy sugar, the meringue won't form properly and it won't accept the flour, and the whole thing will come collapsing down like a thud. And the other thing I learned about this recipe is that the recipe calls for all the sugar to be whipped with the egg yolks. Well, we tried that, and that's been done that way for many years or decades. But that makes a base that is so hard to incorporate the egg whites in that it more often or not then fails with a thud. So what I did is I used a commercial sugar and I ground it down very fine in my food processor to a very, very fine texture, which is what is called the castor texture. People, I will be providing this recipe with all of these little details, so don't worry if you don't get it down now. But what that did is that it allowed me to make a very, 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 very fluffy cake. And for reasons that I don't quite understand, the cake recipe was written to be baked in a loaf pan. I suspect that's because Taliesin has this great tradition of the brown bread, which is always baked in a loaf pan, and maybe there weren't any cake sheet pans around, and no one realized that they could bake this cake in a simple sheet pan. But that's how I baked it, and it comes out much better, much fluffier. Okay, so now we've got the layer of strawberry jam, and what's important here is that we make this with homemade strawberry jam because it tastes so much better than the store-bought. So that's what I did, because Frank's birthday is in June, and that is the peak of the strawberry season, so we know that's why strawberries made it into the cake. Then the walnut layer, or the nut layer, I did a little research. I spoke with Minerva, who told me a bit about some of the traditions that we have over the years. And I learned that it's most likely that the nuts that they used for the cake were black walnuts, because that is what is traditional, that grows in the Wisconsin oak savannas and the black walnut trees. And there's Amish folk and Mennonite folk and just patient folk who will come and gather the walnuts and crack them. And so we know that the original cake most likely was with black walnuts, possibly with hickory nuts as well. Okay, now we have a little bit of whipped cream, that only a little bit, because too much whipped cream can kind of come piling out of the cake and make it very awkward to work with. So I'm just putting enough cream in here to hold down the walnuts and nothing more. At least that's going to be my goal. Okay. Now here's the top layer, and I'm going to reverse so I have it nice and even. That's looking pretty good. I see it's got a little bow in the center, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. And now I'm going to frost the sides very quickly. A little speed technique here. This is just to distribute it. I'm going to be honest with you folks. The drizzle of chocolate is the one part of this cake that I think maybe got away from everyone. I wonder, thinking about what a great designer Mr. Wright was, and thinking about all of his students probably wanting to impress him with their design sensibility, I'm really surprised that the cake in more recent times has been presented with a rather chaotic drizzle of chocolate. I wonder if the original actually was a beautiful motif, such as, we know that there are many fine motifs. So unfortunately, I am not a calligrapher, and my chocolate has firmed up a little bit. So while I'm going to warm it back up, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the cake. That won't take very long. So I'll be sending you the recipe with all the details about the type of sugar, which is commercial sugar. You can use it just regularly that way, or you can grind it down, which is going to make your cake so much fluffier. You can also heat the eggs in the shell, just in a hot water bath in the shell. That's another tip that will be in the recipe I share with you. And then finally, we will take the sugar that the recipe calls for, divide it in half, and whip the egg yolks with half of the sugar. And then the missing method, we will whip the egg whites with the other half. This is the part I'm not so sure about. And I really do wonder if there isn't some great and wonderful artist out there who could tell us what the true beautiful chocolate layer was meant to be. I did hear from Minerva that she said that Mr. Wright, this was a big treat, and he really didn't indulge in sugar and treats very much, either in his childhood or at other times in his life. So this was the one time to go to town, is how I was told. So, working with the strawberry jam theme, I went out and found in my yard some strawberry flowers and violets, because June would be this beautiful month of strawberries. Also using a little bit of mint for garnishing. And though the violets season will have passed in June, I think we can use violets here to make a beautiful artistic statement along with our strawberry flowers, and have a beautiful cake festooned with flowers. Since I'm doing this backwards, I think I'm making a mess of it, but this is where I know you, people at home, will know how to make your cake absolutely beautiful with flowers that you can find, edible flowers from your yard. And I encourage you to do that. Now, we have to make sure we taste this, right? Mmm. I got it all over me. Doing this backwards isn't so easy. Here's our cake with strawberry jam and whipped cream and black walnuts and chocolate. Goodbye, everyone. And we'll see you around Taliesin in the Food Artisan Immersion Program.